Hi, I'm Sheilaa Hite. I'm a master tarot instructor and practitioner. I am an astrologer, a spellcaster, a life coach, a mentor, and an all around magical being. And I'm here today with April's astrology aspects, or what to look out for, be aware of, and take advantage of this month. The energy this month is really interesting. April is a spring month anyway. It's like, new things are happening. And this April 2020 is definitely new. We have not experienced anything like this in our world in over 100 years. So, for everybody listening, everybody watching, what that means is we have never experienced anything like this. And even if we had, and we've been around in 1918 when this happened before, we have cell phones now. We have the internet now. We have different abilities now, different ways of moving about the planet. So this is new for us who are used to making sure that we get to do what we want to do when we want to do it, how we want to do it. And the universe has come along and said, well, if you want to continue being, you're going to have to do things differently. And there was no run up to how to do things differently. There was just an immediate, this is what's different, this is what you have to do, and this is where we are now. We are at a time when we have to take responsibility for our lives in a completely different way. And taking responsibility for the minutia, which we haven't really been very good at doing, I think, since about the 70s or the 80s. And as each new technological advancement was brought forward and we took advantage of it and ran with it, we left a little bit more of knowing that we had to take responsibility and a little bit more of knowing what that was like behind as we ran with the new toy or the new way to be relieved of the common burdens of being alive. So here we are at this point, and we're at actually a very good point. This is not a fun place that we are. It's scary in a lot of ways, but we don't have to let that fear make us so frightened that we're not living our lives from an honorable perspective. And this perspective is one of being here, admitting that here is here and here is the way it is, and choosing, consciously choosing to move forward in a positive way, consciously choosing to be that person who smiles, to be that person who acknowledges another person. We don't have to stand like that to acknowledge that we have other people on the planet with us. And so far, the rule is we stand 6 feet away. And if that's what we do, love travels over what's really a short distance for love, 6 feet. And all you have to do is have it in your heart and express a look at someone directly, a nod of the head, a smile. Express that. And it travels really quickly and very powerfully over that 6 foot distance. So the theme for this month is dynamic focus. And boy, are we ever in a position for dynamic focus. Last month, the planet Saturn, which rules society, it rules the rules, it rules limitations, rules success as well. Saturn left the sign of Capricorn and entered the sign of Aquarius. Well, we have Saturn, which had us, there are new rules, there are definitely limitations in society. And the only way you can win over this villain in in its own form, right now we call it coronavirus. And the only way we can win is we have to follow a certain format that works for everybody on the planet, not just us as individuals. That's all Saturn. Well, Saturn moved into the sign Aquarius. So Saturn says we have to restrict, we have to withhold, we have to put barricades up and boundaries, we have to enforce them. And Aquarius said, I get that, but Aquarius rules large groups of like-minded people. And Aquarius rules electronics, like computers and the internet and our cell phones. So what are we doing? We are a social species. We're still getting together, but a lot of us are getting together in chat rooms, getting together in televised ways so that we can still communicate with each other, we can still interact with each other, we can still be social, but be social using electronic communication. Saturn and Aquarius. Somebody somewhere is having a fine laugh. The heavens are going, well, that is, yes, one way you can do it. That's what we're doing. So, dynamic focus. It's a month where there aren't a lot of aspects, but each one of these aspects uh, plays into the theme, dynamic focus, and it's also about the entry into new forms. And by that I mean a lot of planets are going into new signs this month. A lot of them. A lot of planets are either going into new signs, finding new ways to express themselves, and or they are compacting. They're coming together in certain formations, which is compacting this energy. So let's see what the dates are. Let's see what the movements are. So we'll start with April 3rd. Venus, the planet of relationships, of value, especially self value, of healing, and of money. Venus is going to leave its own sign, Taurus, and enter on April 3rd. It's going to enter the sign of Gemini. So Venus loves what it loves. And when it's in Gemini, it loves communication. When it's in Gemini, it loves seeing new ways of understanding. When it's in Gemini, it means it loves indeed interacting with people on an intellectual level. So this will be a great time for us. This will be a great time for us to communicate out there. This will also be a great time to read. For those of us who love reading, and I love reading. Those of us who love reading, Venus, what you love, Gemini, books, the written word, this is a good time. Pick a good book. Pick a couple of good books and really go for it. I'll suggest a couple. One is called Circe by Madeline Miller, I believe is her name. And it's phenomenal. It is phenomenal. It's Circe's story from her perspective. And another one is called, oh my goodness, I've forgotten the name. It's called Nothing to See Here. And I believe the author's name is Kevin Wilson. And it is also phenomenal. And they're both great books to read, especially during this time. A lot about getting your own power and finding out who you are, and regardless of what happened to you, not seeing yourself as damaged, seeing that this is how your unit is and operates well, that your unit has a place and a function in the world. And that is what both of the books said. They said many things, but both of those books said that. And I can't remember one I've enjoyed reading two great back-to-back adventures in a short amount of time. So when Venus goes into Gemini on the 3rd, on the 4th, Mercury communication, Mercury plans and roadways, avenues. Mercury is going to become conjunct together with the planet Neptune. Neptune, I've spoken to you about before, and I've spoken to you about it conjunct Mercury before. Neptune is the planet of the soul's journey, the planet of the subconscious, perhaps the unconscious too. Neptune is also the planet of the artist, what sparks the artist, imagination, illusion, and which can lead to deception, especially self-deception. So in Mercury, mind, communication, thought processes comes together with hazy Neptune. You have to be careful. Now, just because it comes together on the 4th doesn't mean, oh, it's just the 4th I have to be aware of. You need to be aware for about a week, 4 days at the least. So say today until maybe the 8th of April. Be aware that you need to not sign anything unless you've got 2 or 3 good lawyers telling you it's a good idea. Need to be aware of, just because you see it doesn't necessarily mean it's actually happening. Remember, what you think is being impacted by imagination haze. You don't quite know for sure what you're thinking, what you're seeing, then keep your mouth closed. It's much better to say nothing than to have to go back and clean up the mess. This is also a great time if you're a creative being, because Mercury, how we plan, how we communicate with ourselves and others about what's going on within us, is together with Neptune, which is the imagination. So if you can contain it, remember, dynamic focus. Focus means we pulled it all together so that it reaches a point. And dynamic, there's life in it, there's activity, there's energy. So if you can pull all of that Mercury together with Neptune together in what I call a good working space, that is, don't take your ideas out into the world and market them. Put them on paper. Put them on, use your keyboard. Create a place from which and to which all of this energy can come and can go so that it's productive. So if you're meant to write a poem, write a poem. If you're meant to write a book, write the book. If you're meant to write a screenplay, write a screenplay. Neptune rules the movies, so why not write a screenplay? Write a science fiction or a fantasy novel. Go back in time. This is a great time for that. On April 5th, we've got Jupiter, the planet of expansion and luck and blessings, and one of my favorite planets because it's luck, expansion, and blessings. It's also travel, especially long distance travel. These are things I love. And Jupiter is going to come together, be conjunct with the planet of transformation. That planet is called Pluto. So this is a great combination, and you need to use it responsibly. Jupiter's expansion. Pluto is deep transformation, and things can blow up. So no matter how right you are, not necessarily right this time. That doesn't mean you're wrong. That means right now, probably not the time to say it. Right now, probably not the time to do it in that big, grand way you'd like to. Remember, dynamic focus is the theme for the month. And what you do it already carries an element of being dynamic with it. So you need to watch and see how you feel and how you're thinking, and how you're deciding what you're feeling and what you're thinking has validity. And you need to decide for yourself, wow, is this something I really need to involve myself in? Or is this something I need to try and involve other people in? The answer 9 times out of 10 is this too will pass. So the answer is no. On April 7th, we have the planet Mars, the planet of how we take action. The planet Mars in an intense, tense aspect to the planet Uranus. So Mars is how we take action. And doesn't really think about where it's going. It just wants to move. It's about movement. It's about movement. It's about movement. And that's why Mars people, and Aries is a sign that's ruled by Mars, Mars people have accidents, small and large accidents. Why? Because they move first and think later. So when the planet that moves first and thinks later runs into a tense situation with the planet that just does what it wants to do when it wants to do it, anything can happen. And you want to really be aware that on April 7th, I'd say April 5th through maybe April 9th or 10th, you want to be aware that you need to slow your pace. You need to focus your attention. You need to move forward with your intention in place. but pay attention to not only how you're moving, but how the world is moving around you. It's almost like a slow motion movie. You want to be that character in the slow motion movie so that you can see what's likely to be coming towards you and step out of the way so that you can see where you're headed and make decisions about that. And if those places you're headed aren't right for you, step out of the way. Allow yourself to slow your speed down. And as I said before, in many ways, that's where we are anyway. That's what the universe has done for us. Slowed us down, has us sheltering in place. Then we have on April 8th, we have the full moon in the sign Libra. Great. Libra rules relationships, all kinds of relationships. Libra also rules balance and it rules music. So, great. Please be aware that when the full moon goes into any sign, emotions run high and things can happen. You don't want emotions to run high in an emotional sign of Libra where things can happen. And if it's Libra, it's not only they'll be happening to you, they'll be happening to other people. Because remember, partnership and relationships, that's what Libra rules. So what you want to do, this is a great time for meditation. It's a great time for one-on-one interactions. It's a great time to have quiet moonlit walks, either by yourself or with somebody important to you. It's less a time to let's talk about it, let's talk it out, all out. And it's more of a time to breathe in and to let the universe help you sort. Because once the full moon comes, the full moon is kind of like Jupiter and maybe a little bit of Neptune thrown in, and you don't really need them driving your car all the time. You need to know where you want to go and get yourself a very competent, capable, grounded driver. And the full moon is not the driver you want, and certainly not in the sign of Libra because you don't want the full moon and your relationships blowing up. But you can, again, great for creativity. Go, just go outside, go to a garden, go to a place where beauty, because Libra is ruled by Venus, beauty. Go to a place where there is beauty. Take a walk on the shore. Take a walk through the park. Yes, we all know you need to be 6 feet from everybody. There are plenty of parks and there's plenty of room. But just be out in the world in a way that responds to who you are as a soul. And of course, moon water. So 3 days before, on the 5th, set your moon water in a cup, a glass, or a container of some kind, and set them in the windowsill, or if you want to set it outside, make sure you cover whatever your container is. And from the 8th on, you can begin drinking from that water, from the new moon water. You can sip, you can drink it, you can cook with it, you can pour it into your bath water. New moon water has all the power of that great full moon. On April 11th, the planet Mercury, we've heard Mercury before, haven't we, this month? The planet Mercury, communication, enters the sign of Aries. Dynamic, dynamic, dynamic. Yes, I've said it before. Here it is again. This month is about energy in concentrated forms and energy in concentrated spaces. And when you pack enough energy into a concentrated form, a concentrated space, anything can set it off. So Mercury, thought, communication, planning, in the sign of Aries, I'm just wanting to go, I want to go, I want to go. One's foot can often wind up in one's mouth. So one has to be careful about what one is thinking and what one thinks one should do with what one is thinking. In other words, it's a lot like this the Neptune vibration. It's a lot like that. And that Neptune vibration, you know you're right, but you find out later, ooh, not so much. When Mercury is in Aries, you may be right, but that doesn't mean that should be said. And if it is said, be prepared to defend in some way your position. And hopefully the defense won't come down to physical defense. That's definitely something you need to be aware of. Mercury and Aries can mean arguments, and arguments can lead to all kinds of interactions that cause more problems than the original thought or position or argument was worth. Mercury in Aries, though, if we look at the other side of that, Mercury in Aries means you can have new thoughts, you can discover new things. This is a good time. Write your thoughts, carry your journal. If you want to, record on your iPhone or your Android. But this is not a time to sit and debate whether or not whatever it is you think should or should not be done, whether or not that is should or should not be done. This is a time to take actions that help to bring new thoughts, new ideas, new discoveries into being. That's a great way to use Mercury in the sign of Aries. On April 14th and 15th, we have that marvelous sun in Aries because we're in the time of Aries now. And it's square. It's making an abrasive aspect to Pluto and to Jupiter. So you've got the sun, the giver of life, this big, that yellow ball in the sky, thing that makes us happy when it comes out, when we can see it. And it is the power force in our universe. But so if you ask Pluto, it will tell you that it's the power force in the universe. And if you ask Jupiter, it will tell you that it's divinely inspired and divinely funded. So really, it's the power in the universe. So you have these three planets, powers in the universe, and they're coming together like that. So what we need to do is not get caught up in their territorial dispute. Something good can come from all of this, something good, something that transforms us, something that enlightens us, something that moves our soul forward, and really something that improves the quality of our lives. But boy, we have to take it slowly. We have to not have a better plan than God, and we have to listen, not only to ourselves, not only to the divine, but we have to listen to each other and really listen, not just wait for the pause so that you can jump in with that brilliant thing that you thought of, but to listen, to hear what the other person is saying, to hear what the divine is saying, to hear what this moment is saying to each of us. If we do, then this is not a problem. This becomes this. And this is a lot more fun than picking up the pieces. Then on the 19th of April, we leave the sign of Aries and we enter into the sign of Taurus. That is actually a great time to stand and see what it is you want to build because you've already started building it. And maybe you need to go in and weed the garden. The garden can be an actual garden, the garden can be a metaphorical garden. What have you been growing or developing or thinking you want to grow and develop? And how can you prune or weed that so that it really takes off, so that it really does for you what it needs to do for you? It's a time of, I think, great benefit and bounty on our planet. And bounty physically as we look out at our world. And that's when you begin to see the flowers come up and the trees start getting that lovely shade of green. But it's also bounty of spirit, bounty of heart, and it's bounty of wallet as well. So start paying attention. See what the rhythm is in life, because Taurus has to do with the natural rhythms of life. See what the rhythm is and get with that rhythm, get into alignment with and flow with that rhythm. And as you do, the universe makes sure that you're flowing with a lot of positivity. The universe makes sure you're giving yourself permission to receive its bounty. And once the universe knows that you're in alignment for receiving the bounty, the universe just pours it out like the cornucopia. the endless cornucopia of limitless good. It's a good thing, the sun going into Taurus. So then on the 21st, we have now, again, we've got another square coming up. That beautiful sun square Saturn. So when the sun and Saturn come together, it's kind of like the sun's like a 5-year-old kid. Saturn is like the adult. So when the sun, oh boy, I see a lot of things I want to do. Saturn is, you haven't done your homework and you didn't eat your vegetables. Oh, but I don't want to. The sun's only out for a little bit. Nope. You have to do your homework and you have to eat your vegetables. So if the sun is square Saturn, there will be have tos and there will be don't want tos and there will be things that must be handled. How do you handle them? You compromise. What does the sun want? What does Saturn want? Let's find a way to meet in the middle, find a way to mesh what we want. It's a good thing. Otherwise, you're hitting your head against a wall. It's going to lead to heartbreak. It's going to lead to disappointment. And it's going to be very non-productive. The aspect of any square is not to block you, but to remind you that there's another, more productive, more powerful way of achieving your aims. It's not the way you're used to going. It requires you to look at things differently. But when you do look at them differently, you discover so much richness. And that richness is yours. So on April 23rd, we have the new moon in the sign Taurus. Now, interestingly enough, Venus, the planet that rules Libra, also rules Taurus. And so this month, our full moon in Libra, ruled by Venus, we will also have our new moon in Taurus, ruled by Venus. So Venus is a very important quality we need to be conscious of, not just the planet, but there's a quality to Venus. It's the quality of embracing life, of embracing the relationships we have with ourselves, we have with each other, we have with all of life. And it just seems that the two great positions of the moon this month are really bringing that home. Of course, moon water is involved, especially with these two Venusian moons. So we have on the 20th, let's set that water out for the new moon water. And then from the 23rd on, sip from it, as I said before. Maybe wash your hands sometimes in it. That's great since we're getting PhDs in hand washing. Now would be a good time to add a little bit. Maybe you want to add to the hand washing a little essential oil in there. Maybe some lavender or rose. That would be phenomenal because lavender and rose both are healers and both calm whatever the situation is, they calm it down. And then we move on to the 27th. And on the 27th, we have Mercury. Mercury again. Boy, it's been very active this month. We have Mercury leaving the sign of Aries and entering into Taurus. Now, look at the things that you came up with and when Mercury was in Aries. Now is the time to put one foot in front of the other. Now is the time to get the value of what you were thinking of creating, and to find people who are like-minded who can help you. Because Taurus is ruled by Venus and Venus rules relationships. So when Mercury, how we think, goes into the sign Taurus, it's going to go slower. And it's also going to look for people to help. This is a good thing. This is a positive thing. There's a lot of ability here for you to achieve what you want with the help of others. And the last aspect of the month is April 28th, where Mercury, again, is square Saturn. Mercury square Saturn is called hard-headed. And it's the sign of Taurus, which is very stubborn, the sign of Aquarius, which is there's only one way and it's my way. So you've got Mercury square Saturn, already telling you stubbornness abounds, in two signs that tell you stubbornness abounds, and an aspect, the square, telling you stubbornness abounds. Someone just calm down. because you don't win. You hit your head. That's it. You get the concussion. What you think may be so. What the other person thinks may be so as well. It's not worth the fight. It's about, let's find out what we need to do so we're not doing this. What is it you want from this? What is it I want from this? Because the beauty of a square is it's about us finding the proper lubrication so that we can work together. Squares are important. They create friction. And without friction, your car won't go anywhere. Without friction, you don't get to move gracefully through life because the joints are lubricated by something. And it's a something that's natural. The friction we're seeking when we come up against any kind of friction in the world, and especially here in astrology, the friction we're seeking is, okay, what's of value to you? What's of value to me? How can we trade a little bit of that to each other so that we can harmoniously move forward? We can help each other. So this is a month, as I said before, dynamic focus. This is a month of a lot of new entries, new beginnings. We have so many signs being represented by the planets in new ways. And we have so many planets moving into new signs. And a lot's happening this month. And the most important thing, I think, is you can take a look at what's happening as far as Mercury is concerned. You can take a look at what's happening as far as what's really going on is concerned. And what's really going on is we are in a place in the world where square, that's where we're at in a lot of ways. If we fight it, this is what we get. But if we go along with it, this is what we get. You want to flatten any curve out? Let's go along with what needs to be done to flatten that curve out. And I'm not just talking about the coronavirus. I'm talking about wherever you see resistance, what do you need to do to flatten that curve? This month is on a day-to-day basis filled with lessons, filled with opportunities to grow in that way. So the energy is concentrated and it has to operate in compact spaces, just as we have to operate in compact spaces at this time. There is a way to do it. There are ways to do it where we can take total advantage of the grace that's being given us, and we can return that grace to the universe by doing what we need to do as we operate in compact spaces. Operating in a compact space doesn't mean that you have to operate in a compact way. It simply means that you need to be aware of your limitations, your walls, your ceiling, and your floor. And you need to be aware and you need to bring that energy in so that it can still grow in your little space, whatever that little space looks like to you. So that's it for April. It's going to be quite something. And I wish you luck and blessings and joy as always. Be well.